We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control. We are nothing sacred.
Oh yes, bitches! Welcome to Nothing Sacred. I'm Maxwell Silverhammer. Cruise Control is busy. He's the guy with the life, so he wasn't able to make it today. But I have Alton Pierce, aka Spike, co-author of the book Split Decision, which he wrote with Ice-T. Spike, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Mr. Silverhammer?
Man, so this is crazy. So talk about how the Ice-T first got spiked, as it were. In other words, how you guys met.
Well, back in about 1981 or two, a friend of mine, we were taking a car back, a car that was being traded. A guy had a 1973 coupe or something like that, and he was trading it for a Jaguar. The house was on 42nd and St. Andrews. That was later to be found as a meeting place for all of the players and hustlers, Nat the Cat's house. And as we were exchanging these cars back that were once traded, there was a guy on the corner talking to two or three other guys, a house away. And he was talking in just smooth poetry, like a player that as soon as you heard his voice, it grabbed your attention. So as we were trading this car, my head turned and I was like, what the fuck is that? And it was Ice. And he was Nat the Cat's friend. So Nat called him over and introduced us. Me and my friend T Money, who was a player that grew up on my side of the neighborhood, because I'm from the 30s. In Los Angeles, everybody knows where the Harlem 30 neighborhood is. That was the 40s, so they're right next door to each other. And we would interact, but mainly those players grew up right there. We grew up on the 30s. And in a day, that's when me and Ice met. I was introduced and we just hit it off, not immediately robbing and stealing, but we hit it off as players, hung out, clubbing, dancing, chasing females, doing all those things that young guys would do. Ice is about 4 or 5 years older than me. And like I say, it was almost like instant friendship. Like we had everything kind of like in common.
Wow.
We didn't drink, we didn't get high, we didn't do none of those things. All we did was chase money and females and all that type of stuff.
You know what's crazy? So then you guys became getting into the jewelry store robberies and things like that. But what I think is wild is the fact that neither of you did drugs while you were doing this shit or got drunk.
No, we didn't. Now, that didn't mean that a lot of our peers didn't, because a lot of our peers drank, smoked weed, and whatever they were into. Me and Ice was just like those rare individuals, players, hustlers that wasn't our bag. Our bag was the adrenaline of getting the money and coming back. Our high, the euphoria was we just came up.
That's crazy, because I just couldn't do that sober. I just couldn't, and you guys were courteous criminals too. I mean, you'd even tell people, talk about the hammer bashing that you guys would do to the glass cases when you go in the jewelry stores.
Well, the craziest thing is, in the interim of learning that game, of conditioning, of being hustlers, you pick up a lot of traits. We were like actors before. Ice was an actor before he was on Law and Order, New Jack City. In the streets, we learned how to morph into what is needed. Meaning, we could go in the stores and there's different layers to that playerism as far as getting those jewels. There was the finesse era, where we could go in with some females dressed the part, look like square kids who belonged on the other side of Wilshire, like the white kids, the rich white kids. And we could sit there and talk to the store owner or the merchant or the clerk that was working there. And while me and maybe a female would be sitting over there getting all jewelry cleaned, they would be so concentrated on, okay, these people are just here to get their jewelry cleaned. Maybe I could sell them something. While there's two more of us on the other side taking a thing called a trim. A simple trim is a nail file, a nail clipper. And we use that as a way to take the glass out of the case while the person is maybe 30 feet away, but we got the person that's in front of them is keeping their attention locked in on whatever they're doing, getting their jury clean, sticking their hand in the case on the opposite side and keeping them stuck there. And the other people would lift the glass up real quick. It was like clockwork. We'd lift the glass up, take the adhesive off, and reach in and get all the plaques and stuff them in a bag. And then the other two that got on the jury, they'd walk out the store. Meanwhile, we're still, the guy and the female who would be on the other side talking to the store clerk would still keep, ma'am, can I see that right there? No, that one. And then she would keep reaching. You'd keep her busy, stuck, giving the other guys the times to get out the store. And by the time she raised up, we would be like, okay, well, thank you. I'll get your card and I'll be back. By the time we left and that person recognized all this shit is gone, we're all in the car driving down the highway on the way home.
So the clerk had no idea this was even going on while you guys were lifting.
Had no idea. And then the flip side, there was the other side. Because once the game got in those neighborhoods in Los Angeles, we're talking about the 1970s and the 80s. This was like a small fraternity. It wasn't like everybody was doing it. We were the trendsetters, the pioneers of this shit. And so when the other guys would see us come back and we'd buy a brand new Benz or a brand new Cadillac or a brand new Jaguar, small accolades, we look back on it now. But when we would do that, the other guys that didn't have that finesse and didn't understand, how the fuck are they doing it? They would get there and say, fuck it, I'm gonna go in and try to do something with aggression. So we were like, okay, you know what? If you're black and you're showing up in these stores, it's too much alert because other guys are fucking up the game. They're trying to do shit and got to get the rules missing. So when we'd come in this time, we would come in and the game changed for maybe a year or two with the sledgehammers. So this time we would walk in and we had a rule, like Ice would always say, we had a rule that we wouldn't hurt nobody and go in with the intention of not doing that. We'd go in with the element of surprise. And with that element of surprise, we'd go in real quick, maybe early when the stores are just opening, the malls are just opening, or whatever the case may be, and we'd walk in and they'd be putting the last plaque in the fucking jury case, straight out the safe into the jury safe. Once everything is there, we're like in the store at 9 o'clock. The store opens at 9. We're there at 8:59, like just in a section watching them. No customers in the fucking store. As soon as they would put that last plaque in, we had signals. Ready? It's a bet. Let's go. And we would march like a fucking battalion straight to them fucking cases. We already cased it out. We know what we was going to get. And we'd smash the fuck out of those cases. Smash back. Then we'd have the smashers. The smashers would be in the front, and they'd smash every case that we wanted. The grabbers, plus the smashers would come back and grab too. We'd scoop up every fucking thing. Even sometimes glass would get mixed in. We'd cut our hands. We'd have gloves on and shit. We'd have these leather gloves or brownies or whatever we'd have. But that's part of it. It's like, when you get into that, when you really have the skill set, sometimes you would get cut, sometimes you would, but we'd get it, retrieve, have the car parked right in the fucking front of that store. Didn't give a fuck. We put a yellow banana Dodge in front of that motherfucker because we want you to see that car. So when they see that car, they would call in, hey, the yellow car and there's 5 guys, blah, blah, blah. We go 2 blocks away and switch cars. Now we're in something else. So they're looking for different people, wrong car. We bought time.
Wow. This was well orchestrated for sure.
Oh, more than that. It turned into it's almost like playing Monopoly. We go in there and we talk to the people right when we walk up in there. Excuse me, man, you want to back away? I'm finna break your fucking glass. And it is shocking, like, huh? What did you say? I said, you might want to back away. And as I'm getting to the case, I'm moving these mirrors that people will look at the jury when they try it on. I'm moving all that shit while I'm talking, like, excuse me, man, the manager said it's okay. I'm finna knock all this glass out. I'm like, huh? Excuse me? Like, if you want to back away a little bit, back. So now we're doing it. And now it's time to get the fuck out of there. And we had these clocks in our head. 30 seconds, 20 seconds, let's go, y'all, it's over. And we were track stars. Ice was so meticulous in planning getaways that he was the specialist in getting cars, specialist in, because he was in the military for a minute.
Oh.
And he could plan fucking getaways that if you were chasing us, if you were some mall security, some security working at a nice store like Van Cleef & Arpels in Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive, you wasn't gonna catch us. You'd have to be not only hell of an athlete yourself, you have to figure out where the fuck is this leading me. And all malls would have these back hallways. Like we knew that, we scoped it out. If you're on the 3rd floor, you hit those back exits and you go down those fire escapes, like you're out of it. You're like a track star gun just went off, bam. There's no Usain Bolt, you out of it.
So would Ice, would you say he was the ringleader when it came to a lot of these smash and grab things that you guys were doing?
No, Ice was like the leader of putting of the getaway and all this. We all had roles. I was more or less like in my own right a leader because I was bringing what I was doing in Los Angeles in the '80s. I was bringing together neighborhoods like that was taboo. Like Los Angeles has this gang culture. This players sometimes get diplomatic immunity. They can go from neighborhood to neighborhood without
any trouble,
getting jumped or fucked up or whatever, because the gang members know other gang members. They know what they're looking for: colors, identification of like that's so and so or that's his brother. But players are like they're either these flamboyant. These are the guys, the Max, the Superflies of yesterday that are these modern day players that have that look, and they're not there to cause. They're not set tripping. They're not involved in that shit. They may have a cousin or a brother that's into that shit, but these are the exceptions to the rules. So at the end of the day, it's like we could go from neighborhood to neighborhood. But my thing was I could go to those neighborhoods because one thing about money is like music. It transcends people that would not normally even fuck around. I could bring a Rolling 60 with a Hoover Crip. These are gangs that don't even fuck with each other. And because there's money on the line, motherfuckers would, put down their guard and say, hey, let's go get this money. It's just like the drug era or everything else in Los Angeles. Motherfuckers would back away from, I'm gonna kill you if I see you on site, because it was like that. It was like that in the 80s and 90s. On site, a person would do something to you. Even now it's like that. But the point I'm making is we were the guys who could put money together. And I was more like the boss of that. I would put 3 guys from this neighborhood, 2 guys from that neighborhood, and then I would go through with Ice, and we would just, okay, man, I got something up. We need this, and because I trusted in him from day one. Like I knew that he was such an asset. Ice was such an asset, and he was a boss. Don't get me wrong. Like I didn't tell him what to fucking do.
Right.
I was already acclimated and laced from my neighborhood, the 30s. Ice was already acclimated. The difference was Ice just came out the military, and he was hustling somewhat before he went to the military. He was seasoned, but when he got out the military, his host was to start DJing and get his equipment and do certain shit. But when he got out, he saw the game had elevated. Plus, he had a child to feed.
So we had to do something, obviously.
Yeah, he had to do something. So when he got back with his homies after doing several years in the military, he realized, damn, these motherfuckers are not nickel and diamond. These motherfuckers are coming back with whole jewelry stores, chasing armored trucks, just doing they're like setting it off like the movie. Like these motherfuckers in real action are motherfuckers that ain't bullshitting. So Ice really didn't like stealing. He didn't. He hated that shit. But once he was there, Ice became a beast in that motherfucker. Like there was times I thought I was getting a whole lot of shit when we come out from the stores. Then Ice would have a pillowcase with twice as much as the shit that I had. I'm like, God damn. But that's that military, clicking.
Right,
so
right.
We hit it off so good. This is when I knew Ice was so down. When we had our first live together, I had this guy from a neighborhood called the 70s, 74 Hoover neighborhood. So I got these couple of guys and we went inside the store. So we had this code word. It was called, it's a bet. When I say it's a bet, and these are my recruits, not Ice. Ice came in through with me. So those are my crew. Ice came through because I picked him up and I already had this lick up. When we get in front of this case, this guy named Sam, rest in peace, he's passed away now. He had the sledgehammer in his back. And usually I never had Sam break the glass. He would just be a scooper. Like, you get the shit, we break it, you just grab what you can, we're out of here. And this time I'm like, I want to see what Sam was working with. Sam, you're gonna break the glass today. So it's so important because when you break that glass, it's telling all your rest of your fucking crew, you thought a robbery had started when you got your fucking stolen car. It's on once that happens inside the store. It's no turning back like, oh my God, I can't do this, I'm scared. No, butterflies, fuck that. Go, let's go. So when I say it's a bet, I look at Ice, it's a bet, I say it's a good bet. I look at Sam, that's the code you're supposed to have been breaking. Sam was frozen like the Statue of Liberty. He froze up.
Wow.
And we look at each other, and I said, it's a fucking bet. I said to him again, the lady that's in the store, she's standing back like 5, 10 feet, like, what the fuck are they doing? Then Ice, without me even knowing it, this is how down Ice is. Ice reaches around me, reaches in where Sam's at, because we're all in close proximity, side by side. Ice reaches and pulls Sam's shirt up and grabs the hammer out of Sam's fucking back and began breaking the fucking glass.
Wow.
Just snap this shit. And I was like, oh yeah, this motherfucker here's down. Like this motherfucker's with the business.
That's
yeah.
Man. You talked about that in the book, I believe.
Oh yeah, for
story.
Sure. Yeah.
And you know, this, and then didn't Sam want part of the loot? And you're like, nah, man, you know, you didn't do shit, so we shouldn't pay you.
No, that was a guy who was a very close friend of ours, and his name was Bruce Richardson. Bruce Richardson had a club. He was a major drug figure in Los Angeles, but he also was a close friend. Like his cousin's name was Jeff, and Jeff, who is now a preacher and has turned his life around. But Bruce was a guy who was like one of our most successful drug dealers in Los Angeles. He got murdered, and so he's no longer with us. But in the era before Bruce got started in becoming this major drug dealer, I already had his cousin Jeff as part of my team. So one day I come over there to tell Jeff's house on 77th in Vermont. I tell Jeff, hey, I got something up, but his cousin happened to be there. And he says, hey man, do you mind if I take my cousin? So when I see his cousin, I'm like, does he know about this shit? Does he know what to do? And he's like, I said, bring him over here. So he comes over there, he's square as far as robbing and shit is concerned. I think he might have been just selling little nickel and dime bags of weed. I'm not sure, but he wasn't Bruce yet. Like that nickname Burt. That's the name everybody knows in Los Angeles. And I tell him, I say, hey man, your cousin says that you down with this shit. You want to roll? He said, yeah, man, I want to, you know, because now he sees his cousin with all this money shit from robbing jewelry stores. So he wants to be part of that. I said, all right, look, man, this is what you do in the morning. You got to get you a G-Ride, get your stolen car, you know, bring your hammer, bring your pillowcase. We leave at such and such time, because I like to go early in the morning. I jump in the fucking car, depending on how far I had to drive, an hour or two drive. If the store opens at 9, I'm leaving this fucking area here at 6:30. I'm going to be there before shit opens. So the next morning when we get ready to go, he shows up, but he shows up in his own fucking car. And I look, I say, hey, youngster, what are you doing? He says, I'm ready. I said, no, you're not. We don't go in our own fucking cars. These are all stolen cars. We leave these motherfuckers. In fact, I don't even have time to school you on the shit. We're on our way out. We're gone. So we drive, we leave him standing there. Though I thought, this motherfucker jumps in his car. My boy jumps in his car and follows us. Unbeknownst to us, we get to this fucking store and it's clock time. Like, they already know this crew that I have. We have been doing this for a while. And ICE wasn't part of this one. We went to the store and we jump out the cars, and once we jump out, everybody knows how I'm leading the way. Let's go. And we go inside the store, we walk in this motherfucker like the movie Heat, like we up in there. And we start breaking shit. We're breaking all these cases. And as we're going to break these fucking cases, I always have this peripheral that I'm looking around to see if any store people are moving. Have they pushed the button? Have they called the cops? What's going on? I want to know what my perimeter is. And I'm looking, and my eyes glance outside the fucking parking lot, because we got these cars parked right up to the front of this fucking door, so we don't have far to go. These are stolen cars. We can get rid of them. We don't give a fuck who sees them. We want you to see them. But in the midst of these stolen cars, this kid Bruce is right there. He's standing there in front of the fucking store, but he hasn't came in. He's just looking at us like he's in shock, like, oh wow, so this is how this is done. He's watching the robbery go down.
Shit. So
now, 10 or 15 seconds go by, we're out of that motherfucker. We're pushing past him and jumping in these stolen cars, and we leave. We make it back all the way to that house of origin, which is Jeff's house on 77th Street, which is Bruce's cousin. We get in there, we go in the bedroom, we pour all these fucking pillowcases. We got the whole fucking store. We're pouring it on his bunk bed, and the door opens up in the bedroom, and it's Bruce. He walks in and he's standing in the door and he's looking at us like he's in shock, like, God damn, you guys did that shit. Like, whoa, whoa. He's looking. Well, now we're like busy taking personal pieces out the look. Here, you take this Rolex. That one's got diamonds in it. Take this Piaget. You take this Petit Philippe, whatever. We're like passing our personal pieces. The rest of the shit gets sold to our fence. So I'm looking at Bruce. He's looking at us, putting all these rings on each finger, bracelets, Rolexes. You know, shit costing $30,000 and $40,000 a piece. If I watch or two, you know, he's looking, and then I said, I can see. And I turn and look at him. I say, hey, youngster, I saw you out there in the parking lot. You followed us, man. Don't you know if the police came, your ass is going to jail too? You're black. And he's just looking at me. And I said, I told you could go, but if you don't fucking participate, you don't get shit. Now this is me, the leader of everything, telling him in front of his cousin, in front of the rest of the guys in the room. So now he's watching, he's quiet, he feels like, damn, I missed the opportunity to get some money. So we're tying the bags up, and then I grab the bag and I open it and I pour some shit out on the bed. I say, get you some shit. He's looking at me like, I can't believe it. I'm like, get you a fucking watch and get you some rings, get some shit. And he grabs, I said, the only reason I'm giving you some shit is because this is your cousin Jeff and he introduced me to you and I said you could go. Let this be a fucking lesson. If you ever go with me and my crew, dude, you don't do shit, you don't get a fucking nickel.
Wow.
And then he turns around, he grabs a couple of pieces and he was just so unbelievably happy that he was like, wow. And that became me and his personal relationship. Because later down the road, when you'll read in the book, Split Decision, this is really a cautionary tale. This isn't about glorifying crime, but I'm just letting you know, as you ask these questions, this is how it was until these changes happened in my life. And but Bruce later on, when all was said and done, it's funny how God works. I turn around and I went to jail, prison, not the life sentence, but an earlier stint. And because I did him that way and treated him like that, he was the first fucking, when he became this drug dealer, that I didn't even know that could have been the money he might have sold that shit that infused him blowing up because he became a super millionaire. When I got out of fucking prison in my first prison extent, when I did 3 years on a 4-year sentence, that was the first fucking person in my mother's house. And I never even called him.
Wow. Well, if you listen to 6 in the Morning, for all of the listeners out there, there's a line where he says, Bruce is a giant that keeps clocking dough.
That's him. That's fucking him. And like I said, he came to my mother's house, took me to the Beverly Center, which is located in Beverly Hills. Took me, he later had a club underneath there called The World. He took me to this fucking, to Beverly Center, Bertoni's, a couple of fucking, expensive Italian clothes stores, and spent like about $10,000 on me on clothes. Gave me another $10,000 cash in my pocket. He was the king of drugs, so he offered me a few other things. He even offered me, did I want to come and be part of the drug organization? Like, you want to take over this or relieve me at certain times, and all you got to do is just move this shit from you. And he takes me to a house where I see millions in plastic bags in the fucking kitchen, 2 triple beams in an icebox with maybe about 50 or 60 keys in it. And I'm like, fuck, like that shit I'm hearing, you're really doing it.
That's crazy.
But the irony is that's the same house that he got murdered in.
What drew you away from getting involved in the drug game?
Well, some of us are built to be, certain things, because you got to realize there's certain levels of hustling. You got guys that are forgers, chick forgers. You got pimps that depend on females or whatever. And each genre of hustling, money moves at certain speeds. Just like the freeway, you got 3 or 4 lanes. You got a slow lane with trucks and old people and people that just don't want to go fast driving. Then you got the fucking diamond lane where motherfuckers like on the Autobahn and he just needs that rush. Well, I'm on the Autobahn. So at the end of the day, the drug era, it moves if you hustle long enough and you get the right connections. Yeah, one shake of the hand, one deal. If you're at that level, you can make endless money. And the thing about it is, you have to first build that clientele up and make connections and build connections to where you trust individuals. Because even the people you trust, you got to watch. Even the fucking people. So when I tried that, and I did make some money with that fuck around because when I first got out, I'm like an enigma. Like, I got out, and then when I got with Bruce gave me this, and I'm like, okay, I don't got to just rush out and go hit another lick. I'm gonna try to sell some of the shit. Even I learned how to stretch it and make it in as they called it in the 80s, the blow up game. I learned that, like, I could take a kilo and make it a key and a half, and then still make more money off of it. But the thing about it is the back and forth, the traveling, the nickel and diamond, if you're not at that large level, you're taking more risk than you are for the person who's got 100 keys and all he's got to do is sell 5 keys and he can just go sit back down in front of his fucking TV and watch Sports Center, where a motherfucker that's making nickels and dimes, you got to, continue to, okay, I got 9 ounces, I got to drop 9 at this house, that house, that house. Then you got to pay your homies, you got to keep that going. So you're out there, you're on the front, you're on the front line more. So with that, you start taking losses. You take losses, you got the ups and downs, you're more on front line. So it was like it was sort of like I caught a violation in the middle of me making a nice chunk of change with the drugs. I caught a violation. Police had arrested my daughter's mother. I had to pay like $35,000 in 5 minutes to make sure she got bailed out, plus get an attorney. Like the money you make, it comes and goes. So the difference between the jewel game is I could go steal a box of loose stones that aren't set into a fucking piece of jewelry. And depending on the quality, the carats, the 5 C's, quality, carat, colors, all those things. I learned I can make so much money in 5 minutes. I can remember getting some loose diamonds and selling them and coming back with, close to $400,000. I'm like, damn, this is like a little domino box. And I sold that shit and I got that. So now, no, my only thing was my overhead was I always had a crew of motherfuckers. And sometimes I would go with my cousin Richie Rich, went to ICE several times by ourselves. It fluctuated. But me, I've always been like the leader type. I've always been a person that decided, okay, this is a lick that's fixing to get hit. So, that difference was, that's why I left the drug game. And then I was like, fuck it, this lane over here, I just wanted that adrenaline, like I can make this fast money and alleviate these 12 moves when I can make one.
Right. Okay. So then I started the Rhyme Syndicate and you became part of that. But you did you ever record anything? I know you and Nasty Cat were a sort of a group.
Oh, yeah. I recorded some stuff like prior to the life sentence once I got out of jail, the same time I was telling you about it, which was like 1986. I went to jail in 1984, got out in 1986 on the 4th of July. Never forget it. And immediately, when we talk about now, split decision, the book and everything else, solidarity is, if you follow this book and you read it, and even right now as I'm telling you, our solidarity has always been there in both ways. Like, if I get busted, I'm never going to snitch on you. I'm never going to take you down. Don't believe in that shit. I got to ride this out like Clint Eastwood in the desert by myself, And so my thing was, in 86, when I got out, after I, got out of that trouble there, after I got out, I got a violation, and then I got out, and then ICE like scooped me, like, come on, we're ICE was merging into this music. And at the time, every time that I would get brushes with the law, I had to do a little time or something. I hadn't did no major time yet, like life sentences and shit. I just did that, 30-something. But in increments, you realize that 3 years is still like forever if you haven't done 3 years yet.
Right.
So when I got out of jail, ICE would always like, come on, Spike, I got this music shit. Like, he would never hesitate. Like, that was our brotherhood. ICE is an orphan. So we became family. The guys that he always had around him, ICE loved. ICE has this, man, this guy, we love him so much because he's looked out for years. Not just now that he's famous. He's always been, he's a born leader. He's a born person that has this caring spirit. And we are his family. So when I got out, he's like, come on, we're doing this. Next thing you know, I'm on tour with him. And then as we get back from tour, I might have been out with Public Enemy, Big Daddy Kane and them, Stethosonic, NWA, JJ Fad, MC Hammer, all those guys back in that day. And so when we came back, ICE was like, he'd always encourage not only me, but everybody in the Rhyme Syndicate. Because Rhyme Syndicate just wasn't Rhyme Syndicate, the rap unit. Rhyme Syndicate was also a unit called the Old Crime Crew. So it was two entities fused together under one umbrella. The Old Crime Crew was ICE's original, since he came to Los Angeles, his crew of guys that were in the streets, hustling, playing, committing these crimes with him.
I think I remember him saying something like that on, what was it, OG, where he said, shout out to the crime crew, right?
Yeah, the crime crew is us. And then the Rhyme Syndicate, the bigger umbrella is, you got actual artists that all come from the East Coast just about. Donald D, Bango, Kid Jazz, Bronx Style Bob, all those guys. Then you had some guys that were from out here that were polished, that were ready to go, which was, you had Dub C, I believe Toddy T, the Dub C Mad Circle. You had Everlast came out here before he was Whitey Ford and everything else. ICE gave all these people their start. ICE was the catalyst of giving those people their start. So in the interim of ICE really trying to merge into this life, he would tell us, like, man, I'm not doing this shit anymore. Like, I'm not crying anymore. I have something in my heart that I want to do. And I want to, he had started becoming famous gradually. He had, back then when Ice was leading the way here on this West Coast, he was the first original gangster rapper before NWA, before everybody.
Yeah.
That 6 in the morning, but and eventually NWA Boys in the Hood shit blew by like a fucking whirlwind. Like they the Ice hit colors and then everything became. But in the interim of that, it was like Ice would say, "Here, I'm gonna open this club. If you guys want to have jobs, so you don't have to be out here hustling and stealing to hold you afloat like a rubber raft or a buoy or something. Hold on to this. But while you're holding on to this, I encourage you guys to do something. Like do what I'm doing. Like write some music. Ice paid to get me in the studio. I'd done like about 7 songs at that time. So as I was doing the 7 songs, I grew up listening to music, the Motown sound, the old sound. Understood a lot of rock and roll from Zeppelin, to a lot of other stuff that I would listen to. And so I had ideas. I even did like a song with the Beatles music. Come to find out I couldn't use it, but I did something. I want to hold your hand. And Capitol Records was like, get the fuck out of here. Like you're not using this. And so they was going to sign me. Quality Records was going to sign me for just that one song. I infused Tony says feels good with I want to hold your hand. And that came out of my brain. The same way I was quick with these licks, I'm also a quick thinker. That's the gift that God gave me. I just used it for the wrong things. And I made that a hit. And then they were like, here, we're going to sign you for $200,000. And then they said, but you did get all the sample rights because that was the era of sampling. And it was like, oh, you didn't? Here, well, you better call and find out. And when I did it, I would call Capitol and they're like, here, call these 3 fucking attorneys while you had to get the fuck out of here. Nobody's using this. This is Beatles shit. This is prestigious. So for me, it was like a dead end. And for somebody like me, I didn't have patience. Like, okay. And then when I would ask other people, like, help me get to the level you guys are on, a lot of people were like, yeah, I'll help you. But they was in the middle of trying to find their hit. Because at the time, nobody had even bought a car on this West Coast from rapping. Not even a fucking car. We looked like we were those guys because our jewelry, our cars, our shit came from our hustling before Ice even was doing music. Ice was riding in a fucking Porsche before he was even, I was riding in fucking Porsche and Z's and all kind of shit. And music wasn't even the fuck on the radar.
I like how Ice describes in the book where he was about to break into a car. And this is about when he was doing the music and some kids recognized him and wanted autographs.
It's called Too Famous. It's Too Famous to Steal. And he was going, he had the Porsche and he needed a part for his convertible top. And when he went to this location, his friends had stolen a car and they took some parts and they told him, hey, we got a car. And I was like, well, look, man, get the part from me. It was taking too long. So I was like, fuck that. Give me the ratchet. Give me the shit. Tell me where the fucking car is at. But there's this area in Los Angeles called the Jungles. It's a predominantly area with nothing but apartments, like blocks and blocks and miles of apartments. But there's also a neighborhood where like this is a blood gang neighborhood, their headquarters, called Black Peace Stones. So I just went up in there. And when he went up in there, he had to maneuver through these alleys and walkways and shit and cut through these apartments till finally he found the car. So Ice is immediately like, okay, same thing. He's in combat mode. Let me go get this piece off. So he's ratcheting this fucking few screws off to try to lift this piece off. And lo and behold, these kids who probably saw him in videos or some type of television or heard his music, they knew who he was. They ran at him. When he heard the name Ice-T, he looked up and like, oh shit, I'm busted. Thinking that he's being busted for the car. And these kids ran up and they were like, hi, we want your autograph. So I was like, what the fuck? So now all these little kids are surrounding him. Next thing you know, there's a wave of adults. Ice-T, Ice-T. He's like, oh shit, the parents are coming. So now he's got all these people surrounding him and they're taking pictures. Somebody probably got the pictures out there. Standing next to him in front of a stolen fucking Porsche. They thought it was his shit. Wow. And he realized at that time, he said, oh shit, I can't do this no more. Like I'm too famous to steal.
That's crazy. Well, the book, I would say this book is like the twins of books. Remember the movie Twins with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Oh yeah, all day long.
And it's like, you guys, you're on the same path, but separate paths in this book, and how you both tell the stories, the same story, but you have a different perspective. So how was it writing a book, like co-writing a book together and making sure everything, was consistent?
Well, the idea of writing this book was something I had with me when I was doing that life sentence. And I knew that I wanted to write a book, but I didn't know if I was ever getting out. I really believed I was going to die in jail because I had beat the death penalty and I ended up getting 35 to life. There's guys in prison that were in there already well before I just landed in there. And they had maybe 15 to life or some life sentence. And these guys had 20 or 30 years in on a 15 to life. So imagine I'm coming in there with 35 life. I can't even imagine getting out. So now I'm like, you know what? As I'm watching ICE on television and I'm seeing his success, the cop killer thing with Charlton Heston and them come out and say Ice-T is advocating this, which the message was wrong, which George Bush and all these other people were like coming against him. ICE had to back away from Time Warner, a lot of things that were happening, and I was seeing it on TV. So my thing was, okay, but at the end of the day, in his journey, I watched my closest friend, like a brother to me, he became successful by staying true to his dreams. And I had so many mixed emotions. So my thing was, well, if I'm gonna die in this motherfucker, I want to change. Like he inspired me. He inspired me to change. But now I kind of now knew how to write music, but I didn't know what it would take to write a book. So I started writing when I was in prison. Like just every note I would get, I would follow along with things that I would want somebody to hear. So there was so much going on in those prisons that I couldn't finish it because of lockdowns, transfers, just different shit. So I was like, okay. So I had called ICE, and several times he was going to link me up with somebody because he was too busy to like just put his whole life on hold to just come in there on, a long period of time to just sit with me and write a book. And he tried to help me several times, but things just didn't line up the way we tried. And then finally, when I did, God blessed me to get out, because like I said, I thought I was going to die in prison. I was just about sure of that. And when I finally got out, one of the first things I did, I was like, ICE, I want to write the book. So ICE being out here, he was like, well, wait a minute, Spike. Now that you're out, it's like, we can't just write. You just can't write a book, because that idea was mine. This Split Decision was a name we came with. ICE came with the name Split Decision. Because we had to think about it, like what purpose would it serve? We don't want this book to just sit in the bin and collect dust. Like nobody really wants to hear about a fucking person who did wrong, regardless if he found God, regardless if he feels like he's changed. What is the difference in writing this book? Like why would society want to hear this? Every fucking person in prison who thinks they gotta, I can write this book and it's a bestseller and I want to, whatever. No, ours was for a different reason. Our reason was, I was like, look, guys, I'm thankful that I got out. I want to help some people. So I was just like, yeah, you know what? Like what makes you different, Spike, what makes you special is ICE. Because we were so much identical. Like if I stayed with the rap music, because of what I did learn, and now I could prove that I can, even though I'm too old, I ain't trying to be a rapper now. It's like, I did end up getting the skills of some of the heavyweights, but it was like I was locked up. So that wasn't going to work. We're going to go straight from prison. So this book, ICE was like, okay, our aim would have to be a cautionary tale. And the cautionary tale would have to be aimed at helping people. Because while I was in there was chapters of my life where change stood out. I ran a Scared Straight program, probably sat in front of about 8,000 kids, had a warden call me in and thank me for the feedback and the letters of those organizations and sponsors that were bringing kids in. And I would be straight up with the kids. I was like, look, I can't save all of you guys. Some of you guys are going to die. Some of you are going to end up in prison. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So, but at the end of the day, it's like, if I can reach one of you guys, somebody in this room is smart enough to make a difference, to make change. And so that same vehicle, that vehicle there is what this book is about. It's like giving people a chance to think about what they're thinking about. Don't live the life I lived. It's an effed up life. The collateral damage, you can't even pay. You don't even have an idea of what it was like going to prison and being in there for 26 years. I lost 80 to 90% of my family. Mother, dad, when I left, everybody was alive. Now it's only 3 of us left. There's 9 of us, now it's 3 of us left. Mother and father died. two brothers. One died in prison. One got murdered on the streets, wrong place, wrong neighborhood. Two sisters died. One diabetes. The other, I'm not sure yet. But everything happened so much. And my grandmother, who wrote that letter, it's like, that was just too much. And people think they can pay that. The ripple effect is not only you hurt society, you hurt your family, the people that loved you. They do time with you. And then on top of that, I had a daughter. My daughter was 7 years old when I went to prison. I was Superman to her. When I got out, she was 32.
Holy shit.
So imagine that shit. So it's like, even right today, even though we have a relationship, the scars are still there. Like, had to grow up without me, like had to learn other people's ways, had to go through ups and downs, bumps and bruises, and when we're, like I said, there's a sense of this life that players and hustlers have a warped sense of belief of who they are. And that warped sense that you can take from people, that selfishness, that I don't give a F, that entitlement, all that stuff also are things that I teach to help people understand that you have to take a fierce moral inventory of yourself. Because I was all those things, greedy, selfish, effed up. And all those things came back to bite me in my ass. Like I had to realize, like, your grandmother just died. She wrote you a letter from the hospital on her deathbed. And by the time you're reading it, she's gone.
That's crazy. And then you had a brother that died too, that you guys had a little nasty exchange of words.
My oldest brother was a gang member from the Harlem 30s area that we were born and raised in. He also was trying to be a part-time pimp player, never on the level that we was, but that was his generation, and that's how fast or slow they moved. And he had stolen. I came up. I hit a lick, and I had cashed in for like $250,000 cash, and then I also still had maybe another $200,000 worth of diamonds, which already had somebody going to buy them the next day. So the $250,000, I left it at my sister's house, and I went and picked the bag up, all cash, and I told her, hold these diamonds from me, because I got somebody that's going to give me 80 more thousand, and I'll pick them up for you. Well, my brother, he was really, really, really saturated in that cracker. Like he was just like at the worst point of his life. Oldest brother. He was like Fredo in The Godfather.
Oh.
Like he felt he should have. He watched me and my crew make all this money for all these years, and he complexed about it. Like, and I took him a couple times to put money in his pocket, but you're my oldest brother. I can't. Just like Michael told Fredo, you're my oldest brother, and f that jealousy. You gotta get in line and support what we're doing. But my brother, in real life, in real time, he was, like how some people get lost into drinking, and he got lost into cracking. He would just stay, became this notorious crack smoker. And he would be missing at a time. Well, on this day, he happened to be right there because he stayed in the back house of that house that I'm talking about. And he happened to be walking past the driveway, and he seen me hand my sister. He was in the right place at the right time. And he knows, he's like, if I'm handing my sister a bag, it's got to be something. And he's looking, and we don't even know he's there. He sees me handle this big hefty bag with nothing but cash in it and this other bag of diamonds. He doesn't know what's in there, but he knows this crack is talking to him like Pookie on New Jack City.
Right.
He's got to go investigate. Well, luckily, I came back in time and got the bag of money. And I went and bought several cars at one time. My sister had left, and he broke into the house and made it look like somebody else did. So when I came back the next day, like, okay, let me go. Me and my homie was in the car, and we pulled up, and every window and every door was open, like a fucking raid had happened. And I walked in, and I'm like, damn, the diamonds are missing. So my sister's not there, so I'm mixing. I was calling around to catch up with my sister, like, hey, what the fuck? Your house's doors are wide open. Everything is blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, my shit is gone. You got my shit? And she's like, no. And then it just hit me, like in the middle of that phone call. I'm like, holy shit. And then she's like, man, Terry, bro. And I was like, yep. So now I'm mad because back then in my because this all happened in my 20s. I'm like a few months from being 60 now. I was 27, 28. But I was a real seasoned street person, like how, mafia organization. You live by the streets. I don't give a fuck if it's your brother. I don't give a fuck if it's your friend.
Right.
You live by code, like, because part of that money wasn't just mine. It was my dude that was riding with me. Like, that was half and half. So now I got to pay him out of other money I got. I got to give him 40,000 out of the money I got. So now my brother, I'm like, I'm gonna find him and I'm gonna kill his ass. This is my frame of mind at that time. I was so conditioned to be in that street, like how some dudes, these fake ass rappers, be singing on songs. I'm married to the game. No, motherfucker, I'm the person that was standing at the altar. I'm married to that shit. And I took it so real, and I feel so bad about it because it robbed me of all my compassion and empathy. Like, my head and my heart wasn't connected. I was just a cold motherfucker. So I stood up and I was telling my sisters, because I went over there to where they were at, like after her house. Where does this motherfucker hang out? You guys know where he's at? Because he's around us and he stays gone. And they probably know certain areas, but they're not going to tell me because they know I'm serious. And I got a group of guys that, you would constitute as, these are killers. And so I tell them, I said, where's this fucker at? And she's like, we don't know. I was like, when I catch him, I'm going to do certain things to him. And I'm so lost into this mindset as I'm talking. I don't even respect the fact that my mother's standing there. Because I never used to. It's funny how when I talked to my mother, I wouldn't curse. I wouldn't do certain things. I kind of kept her sacred. That was my everything.
Showed her another side of you, yeah.
Yeah, and in this moment of anger, I'm talking and not even paying attention. Like, hold on, your mom's standing there. My little homie who's standing next to me, we get in the car and he's like, man, that's kind of messed up, man. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, your mom was standing right there.
Oh.
And then when he said it, it was like, that's what made it click. Like, bam, like, oh shit. So now, like, I dropped him off and I busted a U-turn and went all the way back across town to that same house. And I pulled my mother's aside, like, Mama, I apologize. But he stole from me, and that's effed up. I always look out for him and his son. I even had his son as a kid living with me, like taking care of his son. And he popped over there and he stole from me. And at the twisted part, like we said, players and hustlers, we were twisted. My brother stole from me, but I stole that shit from somebody else.
Right. Stolen property.
So, and I can see very clearly now, and I'm able to translate it and to talk to people and say, we're so fucked up and we're so messed up that we take stolen money to get mad because somebody steals it from us. Like, that's like the dog chasing his tail, right? So I turn around and then I tell him, I'm not going to kill him, Mom, but I'm going to hurt him. So I can't let go. So when I catch this life sentence, I never saw him again on the streets. So when I catch this life sentence, I'm in the middle of doing this time. I'm probably in maybe 4 or 5 years or something. And one day I called my mother's house because I don't call a whole lot. I just call when I need to just check on her. See, this is before she caught Alzheimer's and passed away. So I call her and I say, no. So I call her number. It rings, and then when the phone picks up, it's a collect call, because you only can call collect at the time. This is before social media, cell phones in prison, all that shit. So when I call, the phone is picked up, and then somebody says, hello? I'm like, hello, who is this? And it's my brother.
Ooh.
I said, who is this? He said, this is Terry. And I said, oh, motherfucker. Now it's like I'm going in with both barrels blazing, and I'm like, motherfucker, you stole from me. Now this is my oldest brother. But I had risen to the top of everything. My whole entire family, like, I was the man. So I looked at him like he's a younger brother. I talked to him like he wasn't shit. Like, I'm like, motherfucker, you stole from me. If I would have caught you, I would have handcuffed you, let my homies just do what the fuck they wanted with. I was talking to him like that. He's like, man, I'm sorry. And I can hear his sorrowfulness on the end of the phone. He's crying. He's like, man, I said, I don't give a fuck. You don't steal from me, man. I always gave you shit. I looked out for you. I took care of your son. How the fuck could you steal from me? Now imagine, here I am feeling so mad about somebody stealing from me. And that was so fucking twisted because I stole.
Right.
I stole. Like, how do you get so twisted?
That's crazy.
What that life does to you over time.
Man.
It's like Michael and the Godfather gets sent over to Sicily to become whatever the Godfather Marlon Brando sent him to do. He was a square-ass, clean kid. But then once he came back and it thrust into his lap, he became this monster. The person that had to pull strings with all these families, had to be cold and callous and had to be precise with all his moves. And that's what that life does to you, if you are that embedded and entrenched into it. So anyway, make a long story short, that was God's way of allowing me to make amends with my brother. And I was so blinded, my head was so disconnected. It was a defining moment in my time because that was the only time that I was able to talk to him. And while I had the chance to say, man, like, I forgive you. Like, I know you were strung out on these drugs or whatever. Because he took $80,000 worth of drugs and sold it for an ounce of drug, an ounce for like $400 or $500.
Wow.
I gave a person a whole bag that they could have got $80,000 for. And then because he was so gone off the smoke, he went in the neighborhood. And then once he found out that he admitted it to me, he tried to go back and I guess try to, get the shit back, but you're not getting that back.
Oh, of course not.
And then he got into it. I think somebody shot him in the leg or something. Something happened to him after that.
Wow.
But that was the only time I talked to him. And I was like, man, you ain't my brother anymore. I disown you. I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back. Like, you're not paying me nothing back, man. Get off the phone. Get off my mother's phone. What the hell are you doing to answer my mother's? I'm talking to him in such a cold, callous, because I'm also in this level 4 Calipatra. I'm like in a survival mode, like where all the logjam of killers, psychopaths, gang members, all these different factions, Bloods, Crips, Nathaniel, Aryan Brotherhoods, Nazis, all that's there. And I gotta live there every moment and read that shit and be alert, for riots and stabbings and watch your respect and watch your boundaries. It's just, I'm living that.
Man.
Then I talk to my brother and he catches it all. And then my mother gets on the phone and said, well, what the hell is he doing over your house? And then my mother talking, she's a quiet little Christian. And she said, honey, let me just talk to you. Like, no, you can't talk. And I hung up on my mother.
Oh, my, wow.
Because I felt like everybody betrayed me at that moment. Like, you guys hid this dude out. But keep in mind, I had been locked up for a few years now. But I couldn't let go of the fact that my own brother stole that from me. So finally, I called my mother back shortly after, and she's like, maybe I was trying to tell you something. I was like, what are you trying to tell me, Mom? And she says, your brother is changing. I've been taking him to church with him. He's been cleaning his life up. He doesn't use drugs no more. I keep him here with me. He's been going to church a lot with me. He's straightening his life out. And it's funny how God allowed him to change before it was time for him to check in.
Wow. So he was able to make things right prior to.
Yeah, he was, but I never made amends by forgiving him at the time. So once I called and found out he had died, somebody had murdered him. He just was in the wrong area at the wrong time, because that's what LA is. You could be a person that's not bothering nobody, but if you're in the wrong area at the wrong time, people are so conditioned out here that, you hear about stuff that's going on now. The young kid got killed, the PB.
Oh, the rapper.
It's like that. Like, you don't have to be here starting a problem. You can just be here visiting with your girl, and somebody will come out and now you're sucked off.
Right.
You can't even eat. The Pop Smoke thing. All these people. You find yourself in Los Angeles, it's like the wilderness, and there's wolves out there. Well, this is just an extension of the wolves of yesteryear, where you couldn't even go to the wrong neighborhood, even though you just passed through. Maybe you got a cousin or female you just met, and you just stopping over there to say hi. But the dudes in the neighborhood, like, who the fuck are you? What you doing over here? And a lot of times, people are so conditioned to where they don't talk to them. I say like their answers is how they gain stripes, like kill that dude. It's effed up, man. So yeah, I didn't make amends with my brother, man, and I still hold that deep inside with me because I had the chance to. And you don't get do-overs with certain things.
No,
people pass away, you don't get do-overs. The only thing you could do in life, whether it was this crime that I was responsible for, and God allowed me to have a second chance, well, third chance to be out here. I just live. I paid forward. God allowed me the chance, and that's to me that matters. Like, I got out. Yeah. I didn't just get out, by okay, I have a life sentence. You got to show massive change.
And let's talk about that real quick. How did you end up getting a life sentence? It's not like you didn't murder.
The case itself, on the case that I went to, San Diego, California, I didn't go in, but it didn't make it no better. It's like I gave some information, location, a link to a guy I knew, and that was his crew. But you might well say it was my crew too, because I recruited him, he recruited them. I didn't know those other guys, I knew him. Well, I knew his brother, but the other guys, I really didn't know. So that's the first rule thing. I crossed over lines and rules that I live for all my player and hustler life. That's what ICE tells you in this book. Like, we have rules: don't hurt nobody, don't bring guns, don't do all those things. Well, this lick, I knew I wasn't going in. I figured if I passed it off to this one kid, because I passed him off 2 or 3 other licks prior to that. This is way past, like, ICE is now in his career. I had slowed down someone even the lit thing. I'm busy trying to focus more about the music. But LA had the riots, and they burnt the city down. So now it's real messed up. And right after the LA riots happened, I came across a lot of guns. So I had these guns in the riots. People broke into pawn shops, and the guns were just floating everywhere. So I came across a bunch of guns. So I left some in certain people's hands. And so at the end of the day, this lick fell into my lap, which was located in San Diego. I always was still connected to my fences, you know, in certain areas downtown LA, different jewelers that I would fence, you know, for years. I made a lot of those people rich now. And so when that lick fell into my lap, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm so interested in this music. I'm not gonna go do this, but this young kid that I had gave some solo missions to, he had poured them off like 3 times. So I was like, okay, look, man, I just came across, look, this might be a retirement lick for you. Because always, in that hustle life, you always look for something that could get you out of that life. And believe me, I had seen how, from not only going on tour with ICE, but being right in the trenches with them, that I realized that ICE had made it possible for us. And a lot of the shit at this point, ICE wasn't even aware of. Like, I compartmentalize shit because we had this meeting when ICE was telling us, all of us, crime crew and syndicate, we're all in this one room at a club that ICE had leased out. Because I'm not robbing and stealing. I don't want to know what the fuck you guys are doing. I know some of you guys are active, but don't talk around me about this shit. Consider me bugged. Consider I'm being watched. I don't even know. ICE, like, I'm not a snitch. I won't tell on you guys none of this shit here, but I don't want to know. Make me safe. Like, I don't want to know. And we will protect him. Like, this is the one homie that we can't, you know, be around with this shit like that. So for me, all the shit I was doing is that, look, I was trying to get me a studio, because when I was trying to get everybody to help me out writing and doing shit that I needed to do, I had the ideas, but I still needed some polished individuals to surround me. And I was going back and forth from LA to Bakersfield, which is 120, 30 miles radius. So anyway, make a long story short, I turned around, and in the interim of that, I gave this lick to this guy. He's like, okay, I got my homies. He's like, all right, we're gonna go out there. I'll take you guys out there. I knew this little Filipino female that lived out in San Diego. She could, you know, we could drive and show you where it's located. I get the rooms and shit. So, but at the time of the planning of the robbery, the homies were like saying, his homies were saying, hey, we ain't got no guns, we need some guns. So now these are like gang members. These are guys that we really don't fuck with. But that was dude's crew. So I was like, man, I told him, I said, look, man, I case that shit. Like, you don't use fucking guns. We don't use guns when we do this shit. It's like a walk in, smash the glass, grab the shit, and get on. Right. They was like, no, man, we feel, you know, because they never had done that. They never had did this. And it was such a sleepy place. Sleep means like there's nobody really to even, there's no opposition to stop you. You can go in there like taking candy from a baby. They turned around and was still insistent. So I'm like, you know what? Well, the guy that I recruited, the one that I took on those 3 licks, or that he by himself that did it, that was his crew. He had a couple of the guns that I had from the LA riots. So I was like, well, look, man, we'll just let them hold the guns. There ain't no bullets in these motherfuckers. They came out of pawn shop. There's no bullets in here. We didn't get no bullets. If they feel like, because nobody's going to know the guns aren't loaded, if that's what they need, because they don't even need them.
Right.
So we're like, okay, fuck, let's let them hold the motherfuckers. So we drive out there. When we get out to San Diego, I'm just in my head, because of how I used to do shit, I'm like, this is one of the easiest fucking licks in the world. You know, if I wanted to come out of retirement, I could have done this by myself. But the monster in me was, once I got out there, this female that I was just meeting, she took me, she used to have a drug dealer who bought her a watch deal, so that's how she knew about it. Plus her family lived Pacific Beach, it's right backside of La Jolla, California. And La Jolla is like a rodeo drive south. So it's money out there. So when we went to this area, I'm like, I know this area, so ain't no fucking shit you're telling me. She takes me down the street, and what she said was true. I went past the store, and I'm like, where the fuck did this come from? Out of all the era that we did shit, like this shit shouldn't even exist in California. So when I went down there, it was like, you know, 57 Rolexes in the window, sign said, biggest diamond courier. Like, oh shit. Like, okay, we're gonna get this. So my old me was didn't even hesitate. It was like the temptation had boiled the adrenaline inside of me, and I was like, oh yeah, we gotta get this shit. When I was saying we, I was saying I'm gonna let this young kid know, and so he can have his crew together, and I'll just let them. So when I brought them out there, it was already mapped. We got the rooms, took them out there, they did the crime. In fact, we took 2 stores. We took 2 stores. It was, you know, 6 guys. 3 went in this store, 3 went in that store. And it was a simultaneous robbery. robbery. They had ski masks, ninja suits on. Nobody knew who did this shit. Weeks before, me and her went inside the store. I was in a suit. She had bought something there years before. Her family shopping. And come to find out, her father was he had leased a shooting range, so all the sheriffs out there would come to his shooting range, and I never knew about her father. So like when the shit hit the fan, it's like all they had to do is like every store has cameras, and when they look back at the camera, they're like, okay, who did this? Like I don't know, some guys came in some ninja suits with guns, and they did this and this, and a patron was in the store and he got shot. So now I'm not even in the store with these guys. I'm like a distance away from this store. All I'm supposed to do is wait at a certain location. They're gonna do the robbery, throw the shit to me. They go back to their room. I go to my room in a different location, and we meet back in LA. That's what was supposed to happen. That simple. But when they went in the location that I'm at, they come that way. Well, one car comes that way, and he kept going. I'm like, damn, what the fuck happened to this car? Why didn't they stop to give me the loot? Didn't happen. I'm like, okay, it must be one of them amateur dudes that dude recruited. Don't know what the fuck you see my car, you're supposed to stop. Keeps going. I'm like, that's a red flag. But I try to look past that. Here comes the second car. Second car comes in, they pull over and they threw a couple of pillowcases worth of merchandise in it. So okay, so me and her go back to our room. They're located at another room, not the same room that we're in, not the same street, not the same nothing. So when I get to our room, I take all the jewelry and I'm like concealing it, like put it in a place that we can protect it. I don't know what happened in these robberies at that point. Don't make it right, but I honestly didn't know. So I tell her, like, hey, jump in the car and go over to that other room and get the rest of the merchandise so I can put it all together because we got to get out of here. She goes over there and she comes back like in a millisecond. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, and so it comes back in a millisecond. And then she said, hey, she has this look on her face. She says, you better go over there and talk to them. They only want to talk to you. Oh. A big red flag, like, what the fuck? So me and her go over to jump in my car, leave the hotel, go to their hotel. I make her sit in the car. Like, whatever this is, I don't want her around to listen to anything. So I make her sit in the car. I walk in, knock, go in the room, and I see all these guys in one room. So when I look in, I see this one kid pacing the floor back and forth. And all the rest of these kids are quiet, like just, I say kids because they're all younger than me.
Right, they're in their 20s probably.
Yeah, 20s, but I'm like 27, maybe 28, something like that. I'm 28. So I turn around and then I look at the guy that I recruited who's responsible for them dudes. And then he says, I said, what happened, man? Why the guys didn't throw to the back like we planned? He said, oh man, some shit happened, man. Like my boy fucked up. I was like, your boy fucked up? He's like, yeah. Like he shot somebody. I'm like, what? I'm like, where the fuck did he get bullets from? Well, that night, because we came that night, the night before we came there to precisely do the lick. But when we arrived there, the stores were all just closing. So it was like we just missed it by 5 or 10 minutes. We're like watching people in the stores, front doors locked, the bar is gonna be locked in, and they're putting shit back in the safe. So it's like, oh shit. You guys wanna drive all the way back to LA? No, we can spend a night. Fuck that, since that happened, let's just take both of these stores on this one block. And that's how we decided. So when we're in that room and I'm talking to this young kid, or talking to the guy, I could hear this kid in the background walking back, like, man, I fucked up. He's just shaking his head and like, and I looked and I said, wait a minute, let me go ask this kid. So, hey, young man, what the fuck happened, man? Why did you shoot somebody? He said, oh man, he made some type of knee-jerk reaction that just it didn't sit right with me. He had said, oh, the guy turned or something. I'm like, but you shot him? Where the fuck did you shoot him? He said, I don't know, I think I shot him in the head. I was like, oh shit.
Oh, fuck.
So now I'm starting to disconnect, like, let me get the fuck out of here. It wasn't the coward in me, it was just like, I don't know parts of this, because this wasn't supposed to go like
right,
this.
That's not your usual steez, You don't...
Yeah, it's not my, but now there's no way of getting around this because now I'm responsible. But I haven't taken full responsibility because remember, I haven't even been inside the store. I wasn't there to see what happened. I don't know who got shot. I don't know. I'm listening to this kid in this millisecond, and then the kid is telling me this shit. I'm like, okay, look, nobody fucking move. All you guys stay right here. I gotta get you guys out of here because because I don't know if the guy's dead. I don't know if this guy, whatever. I don't know.
Right.
But my thing is, got to get you guys out of here. Got to get you the fuck out of here. So I tell them don't move, so don't nobody fucking leave out this front door because it's gonna be swarming. Even though we're a distance away from this crime, we're still out in that county, like just laying low. And so there was a regular car that was driven down from LA of how they got out there. And then I was in my Mercedes at the time. So I'm like, can't drive back with all these dudes. It'd be like an eyesore, like a fly sitting on rice. Like,
Right.
I got to get these guys on Greyhounds, and that other car that's not stolen, maybe one or two guys can roll in that by themselves. The rest of you fucking guys are going Greyhound. Like, and I'm not riding with none of you guys in my personal car. So we're gonna, blah blah blah. So I went and bought them something to eat, bought Kentucky Fried Chicken and some other shit. Fed them and kept them like all full in the room. And then I got tickets for the Greyhound, made sure it was like wee hours of the night, and then constantly like liaison them to the bus station. And so 4 of them got on the Greyhound bus. 2 of them drove the other car, which wasn't stolen, back to LA, and then me and the Filipino female, we drove together, and I had all the merchandise like with me in a compartment inside of my Mercedes. So we drive back, and everybody makes it back to LA safe. But now there's the problem of what happened to this person in the store. Because there's one thing we always knew about it. If you rob a store, they'll chase you for a little time. But if you hurt somebody, they'll chase you forever. So I went, and then the very next day, me and the guy who recruited all the rest of the guys, me and him by ourselves, I went in and sold all the shit, got a certain amount of money, gave him a nice amount of money. I'm like, here, man, you split the rest of this up with your crew. This is where we part. Like, I'm not going to be calling you, or I'm going off the grid and the radar for a while, man. Like, plus LA's burnt down. I don't need to even be out here. I'm going back to go sit where, nobody can see me or find me. I'm just going to kick back. Because I had a decent amount of money saved up. And I didn't need to be doing nothing. I was going to just go back to where my daughter and her mother is at, just stay put. And I told him, like, you need to lay low, man, because the police, once they connect some of this shit together, they'll be here in LA too. Like, they're coming. So don't fucking be splurging your money. Don't be doing this and that.
Right.
Lay the fuck low. And lo and behold, they looked at the film, and then they saw me and the Filipino weeks before. And once they see my name, like, oh shit, that's Alton Pierce. It's one of the legendary jewel thieves of Los Angeles. Where is he at now? Okay, well, who is this female? They did the homework on her. Oh shit, her dad owns the shooting range out there. They're local. First stop, let's go crack her. So they crack her. She's a square, don't have a record net. Of course, when they crack her, her father is being contacted, and he's like, once they arrest her, he said, like, you're gonna tell these fucking cops every fucking thing you know.
And she did.
And she rolled over like Spot the dog. Right?
Oh man.
She rolled over, and then one thing led to another. But then as time went on, we all got captured. I got captured. Me and her she got captured first. I got captured second, but I didn't even know she got captured.
Right.
And when they came and kicked my door in, which is in the book, it talks about it. And I'm like, when they get to the fucking police station, they're like, I got like 30 or 40 cops, 3 different task forces, Los Angeles, Bakersfield, San Diego. And they got me in this room, and they're like, they arrested me the night they arrested me. Me and my daughter's mother was together. It just so happened my daughter happened to be over her grandmother's house. And I never on school nights let my daughter, 7 years old, sleep at anybody's house. Like, she would have been there with us.
Damn. So it just so happened you did this.
That's the first time in my life. She asked me that night, Dad, can I spend our grandma's house? She'll take me to school. And right to that still haunts me. So I'm like, always like, no, you got to go to school in the morning. We take you to school, or the bus will pick you up, whatever. We don't leave you at nobody's house. But this night, for some reason, nonchalance, like, all right, look, your grandma's going to take you. All right. I don't know. Even right today as I'm talking to you, Mr. Silverhammer, I never even planned it that way. It just happened.
Was driving,
God didn't want her to see what was going to happen, because the next morning, the task force had been following me for 4 or 5 months. Like they had finally linked me out in Bakersfield, and they followed me. They didn't want to arrest me immediately. They was hoping that I could somehow rendezvous with these guys or my crew. What was I still doing? And for months I would be just solo, because I was off the grid now. You can follow me all the fuck you want.
Right.
I don't even know you follow me. But when I look back on it, there was guys that would pull up in certain cars that were feds. They would come in family units. They would come with a mother, a kid, and a father driving a car, and I'd be riding in a suit in my Mercedes. Walk by there, just wave at me, and I'm like, okay, nice white family. They waved at me. Hey, how you guys doing? We're on the
Right.
freeway. And I'm looking like a businessman. I'm keeping it moving. Well, those were feds. So,
Damn.
And so finally, when they kicked the door in, they kicked the door in, took me to jail, went to the station, put me in a little room. After they put me in a holding tank, they separated me and my daughter's mother, let her go because I realized she didn't know any fucking.
Right. Right.
And then she remained loyal. It was like she wasn't going to tell snitch. She just but she didn't know because, of course, I was living a double life. I was out there being a player. The girl that was out in San Diego, that Filipino female, she was another female. And the police used that against me. They took pictures of her, took pictures of me as they followed me with other females. And then they finally showed her, like, look at all these females. You think you're the only one? Look at this. That's like to turn the stove up on her. Like, hey, you tell on this motherfucker. Look,
just to piss her off, so she'll tell on you.
Thank you. That was part of what left me in prison, because I went to prison. Like, when I first went to county jail, she'd come in, she's just like, fuck you, They just stayed on her, like, tell us if he calls you. Tell us what you know, all that shit. And then she, they tried to get her to come into the trial. She wasn't coming. But they used a couple other females to, like, character witness. Alton Pierce, he had all this money on him. He had these diamond chains and diamond Rolexes and bracelets and all this other shit on, like, this building my character. Like, he'd always have a stack of hundreds, just a lot of shit. Like,
right.
Constantly, right. So the jurors can hear, like, this is who this dude is. So anyway, when they arrested me, the police had told me, I'll never forget, they're like, all right, who you can help yourself? This is immediately after they took me in the room with all these cops, and these two cops were the only one talking. The DA was there, there was a district attorney there, and two cops, and the rest of these task force, these three made up task forces, were like in a movie theater, just was watching me. And I'm the only fucking person in there. And they're like, okay, Mr. Pierce, you can help yourself, or you can, they asked, was Ice-T part of this shit? Like, because they knew I was part of Ice-T's music.
Right, so all of a sudden he comes up too.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know no fucking Ice-T, go fuck yourself. Oh, really? So you want to help yourself? I'm like, I don't know nothing, I'm going to sue you guys for breaking into my place. And then the other cop tells the other cop, see, I told you this fucking dude is a vet. They call me a vet, like, he's a vet. Like, lock his ass up, I'm going to make him an example. Because they know they couldn't do nothing. Like, you'd have been better talking to the Statue of Liberty. Like, I'm not telling you shit. I'm not, what the fuck, I'm dying with what I know, right? So, that was the beginning and the end. They took me, they escorted me, 60, 70 miles an hour, straight from Bakersfield to San Diego, and that's when everything happened. But it was because I was captured, and I only learned later that the female was the one that they caught. I'm like, oh shit. So they hadn't really caught the other guys yet. I wasn't helping them. And I'm headed to picking a jury, because I'm like, okay, what do they got on me? Me visiting a week too late to get my jury clean. So then I case the joint. Did I go in there? No. But in my heart of hearts, yeah, I know I was responsible. What the fuck are you playing this warped sense of monopoly for? Motherfucker, you helped set it off. You were the ringleader. You were the mastermind. And those are the hardest things in the world, people that are responsible for shit to wrap their arms around. They wrap their arms around it when the victory, they got these Bentleys and all this other shit. But when it's time for you to pay the piper, we don't do that. And that's the thing that I like to talk directly to fucking people for. You know you're wrong. You know you did this shit. Stop playing with this. You're only going to end up worse, for yourself. So, so when all was said and done, it was like they finally caught a couple of other guys, and then those guys came singing like the Temptation. Alton Pierce is the person who took us down there, and he said this is a lick to retirement lick, and blah blah blah. So everybody was coming, they snitching on each other, and then they was going to probably let me go or cut me loose because they didn't have enough to stick me with no murder. They had me on conspiracy. And conspiracy ties you into anybody they can connect to the actual murder. The girl ties us in, but she didn't know their real names or nothing. She just happened to be, she went to certain locations in LA with me, but she didn't know their real names and nothing like that. But still, that was enough to get the ball rolling. And finally, when they found the spots that she remembered, knocking the door, hey, ma'am, is your son here? Like, no, he's in jail. Why do you? Oh, no problem. I ain't got to talk to you anymore. Close your door. They go straight to LA County. Hey, how you doing, man? Just left your mom's house. What do you know about the robbery you and Alton Pierce did? And then one kid's on tape like, oh man, I don't know nothing. I was with my girl. Like, okay, stop the tape. We're gonna pull his claws off one more time, otherwise you're finna catch you. You're looking at a life sentence. And here's kids that ain't never did 2 years in jail. Imagine what that is. Then they're like, you're gonna help him. And then they play it again. Transcripts is like, oh, where's Alton Pierce Spike? He's ring me. He'll have me killed. All the other shit. And
man,
so it's like, so they're like, like just singing, like the Spinners, like you didn't even have to tell you couldn't even tell who was the lead singer in that.
They're all singing on
so,
beat.
Yeah, motherfuckers are singing in like 5 heartbeats, Eddie Kanan and every fucking thing. So they turned around and that's all they needed. And they all took deals. Imagine, here I am, I'm not telling on nobody.
Right.
And
Right.
these motherfuckers all told. And so they stopped my trial. Like they stopped, okay, we got these other guys, we're bringing them up here. Like, oh shit. But they never brought them in the courtroom with them. They took deals. But they have deals, because now you take a deal, the DA's for how you do what they need you to do to honor that deal they gave you. So now, but I'm like, fuck it, I'm taking mine to trial. Because I need those dudes to get on the stand and tell on me in my face.
Mm.
And so when I got to trial, in the journey to trial, that's when I started seeing the victim, his family, and then they played the tape of the story, and I finally got to see what happened.
Oh, and you actually saw him get shot?
I saw it all
on the tape?
On
wow.
the tape, yeah. I saw it, and then my heart just broke, man. My heart broke because not the fact that, I've been living this hard life, and I've been living this life condition for years, but there's another thing to watch a mother and a father, these were elderly people from San Diego, to see what happened to their son. It was almost like execution style.
Jesus.
And I'm like, and I keep saying to myself, I remember the echoes of this young kid telling me he fucked up in that room, in a motel room, and saying he fucked up. And I'm saying to myself, why the fuck did you shoot the dude? He's like, he turned. So now I'm watching the real video to see, is this what this kid said happened? Because I still couldn't make sense of the bullshit in the watered down.
Like, why did you shoot that guy? Yeah.
In the way into the story, this young kid, he yelled either get out or something. I couldn't really hear the audio clearly, but I saw, the picture, the TV was sitting right there. And the kid runs in, says something, and then bam, the gun goes off. And even though the Patriot wasn't like, 2 feet from me, it was close enough to where he got hit in the head, and then the other guy dropped. I'm like, oh shit, this is bad.
Wow.
Oh. I would always turn and look at the family, and I just wanted to, like, not giving a fuck to the point where, like, I'm begging for, like, y'all don't do me. Like, no, I'm responsible. I'm like, even though I didn't pull that trigger, I took responsibility in that courtroom. Like, I pulled that trigger.
Wow.
And I had to, because this is not for effects on your show or nothing, but this is fucking real. Like,
right.
I imagined, like, what if I got killed like that? My mother would be here grieving.
Man.
And I would always look over my shoulder and see that mother and that father, this elderly couple. My heart just, it just made my heart, my head reconnect, and it had been disconnected for a long time, like a computer sitting in the corner with the plug pulled. Right. When it reconnected, I looked and I saw that mother with a chain on her neck and a little bitty medallion. And I'm pretty sure that was her son's baby picture or some picture. And I'm like, man, this is fucked up, man. And I looked, and then the tears were streaming in my eyes. I would turn and I look at the mother, and I just shook my head. And I kept telling my attorney, because when the police kicked my door in, they took, like, ill-gotten gains. I had probably $300,000 sitting in a closet, 2 bank accounts, whatever. They took that money, so I couldn't hire a good attorney.
Oh.
And I didn't get in touch with Iceland, because the one rule of life is, for the real people that live this, when you're like that, you don't make calls to people you don't do that, because that's the last thing I do, is be on the phone talking to Ice.
Right.
And then ask them, hey, Ice, because I went off the grid. Ice didn't even know what the fuck happened to me for a couple, like, where the fuck is Spike? What happened to him? I didn't call family. Only family I called was my daughter's mother, who was mad at me because the police showed all these pictures. And I would talk to my mother. Outside of that, I didn't call my cousin Rich. I didn't call Trone. I didn't call Ice. I didn't call none of the circle, because I always felt like the police were watching and listening to phone calls. So I'm like, man, this is going to be a cold ass journey where you can't even contact me.
Wow. When you talk about Rich, that's Big Rich, right? Who rapped on
yes. That's like, he's like my little brother. I raised him.
Oh,
My brother raised him. But in the later years, he became Big Rich. That was the big came later, because he used to be Little Rich. But Big Rich is because he's an OG of his generation. He's a generation under my generation. Okay. Like when I was 17 or 18, Rich was 11.
Because I meant to ask you that too, because I remember him rapping on Return of the Real on a few tracks, and I was like, same guy?
That's when I was locked up all those years. Like, me and Ice ran together in the years that, it's funny, because all the years that me and my brother were hitting licks with Rich and them, that was the 30s era. My brother was the burglar king. He could open any lock. We walked through malls 2 o'clock in the morning and take Fila stores, jewelry stores, whatever. We were like, that was my brother's era. He was 2 years older than me, brother Robert. In the daytime, I was a daytime man. Like, I go in your store while you're there. Like, I don't got a problem. I'm coming with your shit. I'm coming to get your shit, and I'm coming out with it. And then I would take Rich with me. Like, he was groomed into that. And don't get me wrong, Rich was a real fly down to earth player. Like, he was one of those dudes who had his own legend because of like the cartoon Richie Rich. That's who he was.
That was him.
Like, when he was 11 years old, he had a brand new Cadillac. He had to sit on a fucking telephone book so he could see over the steering wheel badge. Like,
that's crazy.
He would be in school, at elementary school, with $10,000 in his pocket. Goddamn teacher doesn't even have that. So they used to wonder, like, he had a car with TVs in it, curtains, all that shit. Like, what the fuck? Whose car is this? And what are you doing with all this money? Security would put me at the lie, say, that's my mother's car, my mother's money. Yeah, that's your shit. So, so the point is that, in those later years, it was like, depending on if I was locked up or depending on the generations, when I did that life sentence, Rich had got out, and then I was tell Ice, man, look out for my cousin Rich. And even though Rich could take it to his own stuff, like, he was bona fide, could do what he needed to do. It was just more like a family gesture.
Right. It's just what you did.
Ice took Rich under his wing, and then it became more of a filtered him into the music and tried to do certain things while I was stuck in prison. Because once I resurfaced, everybody was like, Ice was like, man, what the fuck, man? We've been worried about you, man. Why didn't you call? I'm like, Ice, these motherfuckers, you were going through the cop killer thing. The president came out against you. I had to face this shit. I didn't even let my mother come to this trial. He's like, damn, I would have helped you get an attorney or something. I'm like, fuck that, man. I wasn't going to put you on the radar. You already know me. If I'm in trouble, because there was times I got in trouble before the life sentence. And then Ice would get a call from his agent, George, hey, they're looking for Spike. Like, who's Alton Pierce? His agent didn't even know my name was Alton Pierce. Because in the real world, your government name, a lot of people hide those. They don't even use them. We use these aliases and monikers. And then when your real name pops up, like, who the fuck is Fred?
Right.
Who the fuck is Hugo? Like,
So he knows you as Spike, not as Alton,
Yeah, Ice knew, but Ice's manager didn't know who the fuck.
Right. Well, that's
so when they call Warner Brothers, like, Ice got he's harboring criminals, and we're looking for this guy out in prison, this notorious motherfucker. He's on stage with him. Because when I used to go on tour with Ice, I'd be the first one on stage, the last one to leave. And then I was doing these one-arm push-ups on his fucking videos, and they knew, like, I was like a little swole, little pit bull on stage with the big jewelry on. I was like, I had my image was different than everybody on the stage.
Man,
and I used that to the advantage. He always announced me, and straight from the penitentiary, my boy just got out. This is Spike. Everybody go crazy.
That's wild. When did you finally get out? Actually,
on which one? This life sentence?
The life sentence, yeah.
Yeah, I got out in 2016 on January the 8th.
Wow.
I didn't even realize I was getting out. Like, they shocked me because I went to the California State Board, and keep in mind, like, there's thousands and thousands of fucking lifers who've been to the board 4 or 5 times. You gotta have your shit gotta be so in place, and all your ducks have to be lined up so meticulous and so straight that those those board commissioners, state of California board commissioners, they're ex-judges and ex-police. So when they come there, they look at your body language. If you're minimizing, meaning you're taking only 80, you're thinking you take 100%, but you're giving like 75% of taking responsibility. Well, they call that minimizing. And they'll say, okay, we'll talk to you in 5 more years. Come back, you need to work on something. Anger, or you need to work on understanding what your case is. You got to tell them what they're looking for you to hear, not what you want to hear.
Right.
But that causes you to become vulnerable. You have to put your head on that. You got to chop your fucking head off before they do.
Man.
You have to go in there and let them chop your fucking head off. Because if they do it, then that means that you were holding back on something. So when I went in there, I kept it 100% real. I didn't just say, well, I planned this shit, but I didn't intend for anybody to get killed. Okay, get back in there in 15 years.
Right.
Because they use judicial system laws. They'll tell you, you didn't understand the natural and probable cause of your action, consequences of your action. So any square motherfucker that don't understand what the natural and probable means, you're fucked. And natural means the inherent sense of right and wrong. I had to dissect shit and understand what they were asking me in order to even express and explain. I understood it. And probable means I didn't have to have intent for somebody to go, and I don't give a fuck if I gave them guns without bullets in it. they don't use that. It's a lesser way to charge you with the crime. Instead of saying, well, yeah, first degree murder entails you have to have the intent to kill somebody. No, probable means, and they use that word to lessen the finding. And that means long as there's a chance
that you did it.
That you did it. Like you showed up with a gun, and if you hit somebody with the butt of the gun, you could have killed.
Right.
You know, just as long as you got the gun. And so if you don't understand that, the language, you're going to be fucked. And they use that as a combination, like you got to have the correct combination. And every time I would go there and I would be, well, because I made it important. I'm like, I didn't want to die on this side of the fucking electric fence. I don't give a fuck about if I died 5 feet on the other side. I would tell the kids in Scared Straight programs, I only wish nowadays to die 5 feet on the other side of the fucking fence as a free man.
Right, right.
I don't give a fuck if I don't make it back to LA. Let me just die on the other side of the fence where I can still see the prison. My only goal is to die on that other side of that fucking fence.
Man, that's wild. So you got out, you changed your life around, and obviously now you're, you know.
Yeah, I work at a hospital.
That's,
I won't mention the name, but I work at a hospital, and I work with, I train transporters. We work with people that are in the, they go from, you know, IR, which is the main operating room. We take patients from the operating room, whether it's brain surgery, heart surgery, liver, kidney, whatever, take them there to either ICU, intensive care unit, or these PACUs, post anesthesia care unit, so that they can recuperate in there, take them back to their room, discharge. I do morgue work because, you know, there's different waves of COVID that have happened in these cities. And I've been on the front line just helping people. I haven't tucked tail, I haven't done none of that. Like, I sit with old people that have cancer that need hospice or whatever, and I sit there and I talk with them about the Dodgers, or I just give them my time.
Right, right.
I sit there, I care for people. If I see a person that needs help in any way, I'm in there front and center. It's my way of still, even though I paid my life, I gave 26 years of my life. Even though I didn't pull that trigger, I did pull that trigger.
Right.
And I gave 26 years in prison for that. And I deserved that time. And I deserved everything that came along with it because I set it up. I was the mastermind. I had no right to do that. I had no right to let these guys go in there and do that or even direct them in that area. So you make your bed, you lay in it. A real man has to lay in the bed of nails that he decided to lay on.
Dude, that's...
And so from there, I did, you know, I do that all the time. I worked at a department store first when I first got there. I've been working since I got out. Like, I haven't done nothing. I've been out in January to be 7 years. I'm not on parole. I'm not on nothing. I got my life sort of back. I run ISIS stage show. I've been, ISIS taking me around the world since I've been out. I've seen, you know, a lot of stuff, Europe, you know, a lot of different countries. And so I'm just thankful because before I got that life sentence, I was supposed to go out with it. But because I didn't change and I was still living that life, you know, this is part of it, you know. I remember my daughter said something to me real powerful one day. And this is the ripple effect of what it does to you. She says, Dad, if you loved me so much when I was a kid, why didn't you change for me?
Fuck.
And it floored me. Like, you know, so it tells you, you have to change. So now I don't F around with it. Like, I don't care how bad it is. I don't care. Even though I still have the mind, I could go get fast money. I don't want it anymore. Like, I'm not in it for that. I'm like, God gave me these last chapters of my life. Like, I came home to, like, I spent all those years in prison, but I came home to no family now. All I got is my little brother. My little brother's doing a life sentence in prison on another situation, a whole different life.
Jesus.
I got one sister out here, but we're kind of like estranged from each other because some things that I learned about that she was doing while I was locked up that I just don't agree with. And so I just stay in my own lane. But God has blessed me with a beautiful wife. I just got married on July 25th. I did it on July 25th because that's the day my mother passed away.
Of this year? You got married?
This year. I just got married like a month.
Oh, wow. Congratulations, man. You're 2 months into it.
Me and Jasmine Marquez, her name is Jasmine Pearson. And she, beautiful woman, beautiful man. And we have a son. God allowed me to have a son. So now I got an older daughter that's in her 30s, and I got a son.
Little son.
I got a son who was born, get this is gonna blow your mind. I have a son that was born on my mother's birthday.
Oh, that's crazy.
My mother passed away a month before her birthday, and my son was brought into this world. So I just think God has a way of
dude, God, there is definitely a higher power, man. That's definitely evidence of, of something up there. But man, where can people get the book? Is there anything you want people to know? Websites?
I just say, my Instagram is certified Spike. Ice has final level music. And find out what Doug's is. Doug Century is one of the greatest. Ice and Doug are just amazing. Doug Century is like the Dre of book writing. He did El Chapo's book. He did the Russian Mob. Last Boss of Brighton. Like this dude he sews together stories so unique, man. And this book is so powerful because it tells you about an era that was going on in the 1970s and 80s when LA was at a certain height of a lot of things going on. And I just happened to be in that wave. And I'm a product by choice, not by force, because I had decent parents. My father was in the military. He did 2 tours in Vietnam. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. Sometimes she was a teacher's aide and an artist. And I likened her to a nurse because she would always take care of people. But you can find us on those sites. And my thing is that I just would like everybody to go out and support the book. Because like I say, my thing is, if I could do good enough with it, I still want to give back and do some things. This book is powerful because it's a genuine story, and I thank Ice for giving his time and stuff because like I say, he didn't have to do it. He didn't have to do it. He got his own family. He could ride off into the sunset. But it's about redemption. It's about solidarity. About 2 friends who lived that life. Ice lived that life identical to me. Like we did thousands. Hundreds and hundreds for years. Like we didn't just rob one store. That was our day job before Ice was into music. Our way of getting money was out of taking.
Hey,
it just hammers, was finessing, hammers, takeovers. Even from the credit cards, boosting. We were like doing a lot of things. Like that was our life, and we got so comfortable with it. Like there was not even a question in our heads because we had that warped sense of thinking.
Right.
But if you read that story, you'll read about how Ice was before he entered the world and became blessed. He was an orphan. But at the end of the day, God blessed him with a beautiful family. Imagine he's the longest acting actor on television who's played a cop for 25 years. Imagine that. Like this dude was my crime meet, my lifetime crime.
He was your crime
buddy.
Like
the shit you hear about him, I was doing, he was just as much. If you'd have busted Ice at the age 17 to 25, he would have been thrown under the jail. So this book tells you that people can change. Mine's happened later. And so mine is now that I just want to help some people. I want to let people know that their life, like what these kids are doing now, it ain't worth it because you're going to find yourself down that lonely ass long trail. That trail is like, it doesn't discriminate. It'll swallow you whole and you wouldn't even realize that you were swallowed. You'll be in there by yourself and your family will pass away and you'll hurt society. And then you'll be a problem that society wants to put away. And we deserve it when we go down that road. So I just want people to think about what they're thinking about. Understand that we have to care about each other.
The book's called Split Decision. It's on Amazon. You can also get it on Audible, where both Spike and Ice-T narrate the book, which is how I read it, by the way.
Yep.
And it's awesome. Do check it out. Split Decision on all the major platforms to purchase books or Audible books, whatever. And Spike, man, I want to thank you for spending time to come on the show and talk to everybody, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, man. It's a wonderful book. You guys will love it. I guarantee it. And end of the day, it's all real. No phony this and that. And like I say, I'm on the road to change. So, if anybody has anything they want to just read the book and you'll see, God has a way of changing things. And I believe that whatever these last chapters of life is, because we're getting older and older. And I don't have a whole lot of homies that's 100 years old running around. So I wanted these last chapters of my life, all my friends, Ice and them, were like 64 years old. I'm 59. In December, I'll be 60. But whatever, if I got a year left or 10 years left or 50, whatever it is, I want to help society. I want to do some good things. And this book will tell you the heart that we have. So I thank anybody that's listening, and I thank you, Mr. Silverhammer, for reaching out to me. Absolutely. And it's my honor. Ice would have been here, but he had some filming and stuff to do. But he just gave me the blessing, like, go ahead, he already knows that I'm gonna hold it down, and I hope you guys enjoyed this interview.
Nice. And Everybody else, he said it. He ended it off. I am Maxwell Silverhammer. And that's the story there, bitches. See ya.
We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred. We are nothing sacred.
With Maxwell Silverhammer.
We are nothing sacred. With cruise control. We are nothing sacred.